Pregame.com.
Raise your hand if you had the Bills playing the Jaguars in this year's NFL playoffs. I sure didn't. Spread Powers, Pregame.com studios, just off the Vegas Strip. We are indeed talking AFC wildcard action. We got the Bills at the Jaguars.
The Bills better enjoy it because I do not think there's going to be a repeat playoff bid for them next year. Who do you like?
I like their opponent, the Jaguars here. Minus the hefty point spread. To me, it's a simple handicap, guys. Let's start off with Buffalo, who I think's overrated. Here's a team that had a winning record, 9-7. Kudos to them. They ended the longest drought as far as the NFL playoffs in the entire league. But it's also a team that got outscored on the season, got outgained by more than 50 yards per game. And what happened and why did they have so much success early on in the season? They thrived off of turnovers, which for the most part is random. They were plus 14 in the first 7 games of the season, and they beat a bunch of mediocre teams at the end. Bills overrated. That's why I like Jacksonville here.
And when they played elite competition, they have really struggled. Most recently, Week 16 against the New England Patriots in what should have been a must-win game if Baltimore hadn't blown their playoff bid. But they were never in that game against the Pats.
No, they weren't, and they really weren't in the game when they faced 7 winning teams this year. Okay, they won 2 of them, and I could say outliers, Kansas City and the Atlanta game had extenuating circumstances. But even counting those 2 wins, they got outscored by 15 points per game, 2-5 straight up, and outgained by more than 100 yards per game when they faced tough competition.
Bills, very key injury. Their starting running back, Shady McCoy. What's the status for him in this game?
Right now they're saying day-to-day, but, I mean, if you watched it last week when he had the ankle injury, he's carted off the field. I thought his season was over, and I got to be honest with you, if he can't go, I mean, he's pretty much their only legitimate playmaker on offense. How in the hell does Buffalo score some points here? And you're Mr. Power Rating when it comes to the NFL. Where are these 2 teams power rated, and how does McCoy's injury affect them?
So pre-injury, I had the Bills, even with him, as a below-average team, minus 1.5 versus an average NFL team. I got the Jaguars plus 3.5, so I have the Jaguars 3.5 points better than an average team. Differential is 5. That's what the spread would be on a neutral. Give the Jags 2.5 for a home field, makes this game 7.5. But here's the key. McCoy is the most important running back in the NFL. He's not the best running back. He's the most important because his backup, Mike Tolbert, Fat Albert, the heaviest running back that will ever have started an NFL game. He is terrible. As a replacement, they jettisoned their number 2 running back to the New England Patriots, and now it's going to come back to bite them. 3-point differential in the Buffalo Bills power ratings if they have no McCoy or an ineffective McCoy.
And that leads kind of my second main handicap. I think Jacksonville's defense is going to have success. And Jacksonville overall, in my opinion, is underrated. Why? Because everyone remembers their last 2 performances. They lost each of the last 2 games, which to me had really no meaning. Both of them are on the road against a red-hot San Francisco team, and also last week against a Tennessee team that needed that game like blood. Jacksonville didn't. We pretty much the last 3-4 weeks knew that New England and Pittsburgh were going to get the top 2 seeds. Jacksonville locked in the number 3 seed. But in the first 14 games of the season, Fez, and I even heard you talk about this, you could have made a case that outside of the quarterback spot, Jacksonville was the best team in the National Football League, outscored their opponents by 12 points per game.
Yeah, recency impact. Everyone remembers the last 2 games for Jacksonville, their bad road trip. Well, they were home for 3 games before that, and they were just absolutely stellar. In fact, the whole second half of the year at home, this has been an elite team.
Yeah, not just 3 games, but after losing their first 2 home games of the season, their last 5 home games, dominant. Outscored their opponents by 17 points per game, outgained them by 150 yards per game. And maybe you talk about venue, yes, it's one of the worst home field advantages, but I think with their first playoff game, this is probably the best home atmosphere Jacksonville's had in 10 years.
Hey, they're taking off those ugly Jaguar tarps in the top deck. They might actually have a sellout in the stadium. Let's make it official.
Yeah, let's make this official. Jacksonville minus the points is a pick. Simple handicap, guys. Buffalo overrated. Why? Despite their winning record this season, they got outscored in the season and got outgained in the season, and they were terrible when they faced winning teams. Jacksonville, a winning team, and Jacksonville underrated. Why? Because everyone remembers their last 2 games, 2 losses. Neither game had any meaning. Both games on the road. Now they come back home where they dominated their competition in the last 5 home games, and it might be their best home atmosphere in a decade for the Jags. They roll here. More videos at pregame.com.